I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-Minute Convos, where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, Mike Blewitt. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
I'm doing well, Angel. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat a little bit and get a chance to know you and people find out a little bit more about me.
Yeah, most definitely. It's going to be a pleasure. What part of the world are you in right now, Mike?
I'm in New York, Long Island area of New York. Grew up in this area, grew up in the city, and have lived in various parts of New York City and made my way out to the suburbs just a few years ago.
Intriguing. And I would like to know, my friend, which of your talents that you've been operating in. Hey, I forgot to put in here that there's construction going on at home, something that my wife is, like the moldings, like the guys are putting it in, and I think only my wife could do me this right now, which is cool, right? So it's going to be some character.
I have two little kids at home, so even if you don't hear construction, you might hear some banging from them running all over the place.
Which
so
is cool.
I understand.
Yeah, it's a conversation, and we love it. Like, we're living life, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back to that again. Which of your talents that you've been operating in is responsible for us connecting at this time?
So I believe we connected related to my radio career. I have been a radio host for a number of years now, and it started as a hobby, as sort of a side venture, and it has grown over the last several years, and to the point where I have a national radio show related to fantasy football and fantasy baseball and fantasy sports in general. So it's effectively a sports radio show.
Yeah, I love your name because, it's like everything you do definitely has to blow up, right? It's like Mike Blewitt, right? Mike Blewitt.
Mike Blewitt. Blewitt, the last name, when you're growing up, often has negative connotations and or jokes made about it. But as I've grown, it's become maybe a more unique brand than you could otherwise ask for.
Yeah, I love it. Reframed, repackaged, and delivered. I love it.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so you've been doing this fantasy. Everything is definitely blowing up, right? Pun intended.
Sure.
But who did you learn the skill of the sports side of things from?
I grew up as an athlete, a just sort of standard high school athlete. I wasn't a superstar of any kind, but from a really young age, I was always interested in broadcasting, and particularly on the sports side. And I didn't really pursue it. And through college, I focused on some other things, and I always thought it might be a little too tough, or I didn't have the right connection. And frankly, I didn't pursue it. And it always gnawed at me. It ate away at me, and I had never really given it an opportunity. And frankly, about 10 years ago, I ended up getting laid off from a corporate job. And it was through that opportunity for me to kind of really dive into what it was that I wanted to do that I started to do this. I started to write articles about sports that I was passionate about: college football, baseball, NFL football. I started to write, and through those opportunities, I started doing podcasts on a weekly basis. And through that, it has grown into me being on SiriusXM satellite radio. And my company that I work for has since left the SiriusXM platform, and now found ourselves on effectively our own network, which is the Fantasy Sports Radio Network.
Wow. It's amazing how that worked, right? Like, not having that job was the best thing that ever happened to you.
100%.
Wow. Okay, so I'm guessing there were the challenging times in the travel, right, in the journey to this path, and I'm sure there is still. I'd like to know why you will continue.
Well, I feel very fulfilled by it. It happens to be, look, you can put aside the fact that it's another revenue stream or another form of income, and it could potentially be a full-time career. I feel very fulfilled by it. When you are younger and you have aspirations to do certain things, it's okay if you don't end up doing that exact thing, if it takes you to a place that is also fulfilling. But when you actually dream that you wanted to do something and you get an opportunity to do it, as a job, even if it's a part-time job, that's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
And sometimes people's dreams, when they get their dream job, that may not be as fulfilling. I understand that, but for me it is. I have a lot of fun doing it. It's not easy. I do very early mornings, a lot of those mornings, and I have to do a lot of research in addition to another job that I have. So it takes up a lot of time, but I have a family that's supportive, and I feel like it's something that's very fulfilling for me and hopefully for them as well.
Yeah, love it. Well, hey, I do see you. I hope, definitely, I envision you being in this thing full time, right? Sometimes we wonder, right? Like, is the dog wagging the tail, or is the tail wagging the dog, right? I hope the tail wags the dog eventually.
Yeah, I hope so too. It is absolutely a goal of mine. You know, people very often say that it's important to set goals, and frankly, you're doing it through the course of this project, the 12-Minute Convos project, where your goal is to speak with 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Now, if you didn't have that goal set, it's very unlikely that something like that would have happened. But you have a very specific plan in place. There's a very specific way in which you're having to get there, scheduling all of these conversations, and through that, over time, you're going to accomplish the goal. I'd say sometimes in corporate life, maybe I haven't been as good a goal setter or as good a planner, but when it comes to my broadcasting career, I've had very specific goals that I've set, and year over year, I've been able to accomplish them.
Yeah, I think it directly connects to your passion, and that's the difference.
You're probably right.
Yeah, setting a goal, corporate world, if it's your passion, yeah, you get it done. Setting a goal, fantasy football podcasting style, fantasy sports podcasting style, the communication, the networking. If that's your passion, yeah, you're going to get it. So
Right.
Really excited for you. Tell me one other thing, or before I ask that, where's the best place for people to go to connect with you, Mike?
Sure. So you can go to on Twitter. You can connect with me at Mike Blewitt. That's MikeBlewitt. You'll find links on there of how you can listen to us. But ultimately, if you go to FNTSY.com/radio, you'll be able to stream it. We have a downloadable app. Just go into the iTunes store or Apple Store or into Google Play and type in FNTSY. You'll see an app there. We're available on iHeartRadio and TuneIn and a variety of other places as well. But FNTSY is the brand.
Love it. But tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, Mike.
So putting that aside, putting broadcasting aside, this was the one of all the questions that I was asked that I probably had to contemplate the most. I do think now that I have young kids, and I think it's been important for me to spend time with them. As busy as things can be, when I'm with my son in particular, because he's about to be 5 years old, I will shut down electronics and just kind of focus on him. So he's got a soccer practice a little bit later today. I'm going to focus on that, take him there, just enjoy the moment with him, because through all the busy work and 2 jobs and traveling, it can be hard to get as much time as you want. So I think it's really important to just kind of lock in with your family when you're together.
How does it make you feel?
I love it. I mean, I had kids a little bit later in life. So for me, I wouldn't suggest that I have a greater appreciation of being a parent, but having had kids a little bit later in life, I think I feel extremely rewarded by it. As hard as it can be and the lack of sleep and everything that comes with it, I think I feel very happy to be able to spend time with my kids. So obviously, it's been great.
That's great. So, hey, there's someone out there that's listening who has the corporate job and who has the side hustle, right? Why would you suggest to them they do what you've done by being intentional with that family time?
Yeah. So, I'd say a couple of things, Angela, and I think you focused on it in a previous answer. One is that you have to do what you're passionate about. And as far as my side hustle is concerned, I'm obviously extremely passionate about that. But as far as spending time with my family, and I think you see this as you get older and you have older parents, or you may have little kids, and as your kids get older, time can be really fleeting. All those friendships that you have when you're in your 20s and may not be married or may not have kids, as it was the case for me, as strong as those friendships may be, you see those people less and less. So you have to understand that they're probably focusing on their family, you're focusing on yours, and just to be present in the moment. It's hard to do that a lot of times when you're planning for your future financially and for your career. I think being present with my family is something that's really important.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Well, amazing audience. We are live with Mike Blewitt, definitely the podcast host of on the Fantasy Sports Network, right?
Yeah,
Like you could definitely check him out on his podcast. But I think it's really easy to point people to Fantasy Sports Network as well, right? .com, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
FantasySportsNetwork.com. You can go to FNTSY.com/radio.
Yeah.
And again, you can find us on Twitter at FNTSY Radio or me personally at Mike Blewitt.
Yeah, super love the artwork on there. Love it. All right, well, Mike, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water.
Love it.
Mike, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I have a few, and I did this exercise once in a psychology class in school, and they make you. I remember we spent time really diving deep as to what your earliest childhood memory is, and very often it's something that's traumatic, and it doesn't have to be deeply traumatic, but very often that's your first memory. The first memory I ever had is I got knocked into a swimming pool. I was at a graduation party. I got knocked into a swimming pool, and I was only like 3.5 years old. But I remember I was not in any danger because my cousins and parents were there. They dragged me right out of the pool. But that was like the first memory I have. So about 3.5, maybe a little bit less. And I think the memory is clear because it was somewhat traumatic. I was probably scared for a brief moment, even though I was out of the pool within seconds. I think that's probably why it's so clear. But I would also throw out a second memory as well.
Sure.
And that was not long after that. The Bison, it was born in 1973. The bicentennial celebrations were pretty big in 1976. So many people had these huge bicentennial parties. And the block that I grew up on, I remember us throwing a huge block party where everybody was celebrating sort of 4th of July, 1976. I remember a huge party from there. And in subsequent years, I've gone back and looked at some of the old photographs, and everybody had on costumes, and there were fireworks, and everybody barbecuing and all that kind of stuff. I remember that being a huge party, and for some reason I have, albeit brief, but very specific memories of that day.
Yeah. That's intriguing. So when you did this back in the day, right, this exercise, did you connect why you thought these two memories were so clear?
Yeah, I think the one, simply because there's like a slight amount of trauma associated with it.
With the pool, right?
That's probably the reason why that memory is so clear. And the second one, it's interesting. You know, that first memory, it was probably just weeks before that big block party. So, it's almost like a switch was turned on where you can start to remember things from when you're 3 years old or 4 years old and on. I was three and change. I wasn't even 3.5 yet. So why the memory is so clear of that block party is a good question. But I had just very vivid memories of, maybe it's because I had so much fun. Fireworks and so many people around. The block that I grew up on, I wouldn't say you don't see them anymore because that wouldn't be accurate. But it was a unique place to grow up because there were so many young people on the block at the same time. I had an older sister, and there were probably, no exaggeration, 8 other families on this one cul-de-sac that had multiple children. So there was always a lot of options for me to go outside and play and do these other kinds of things.
Well, I usually thought pictures formulated in my mind. I can tell you I have absolutely none at this point in time, right? I'm intrigued to say, though, like I'm on the page, right, the Fantasy Sports Network page, and I'm looking where you say season-long daily fantasy weird pools and formats. What are the pools and formats?
So I'd have to see exactly what you're referring to, but I would say in general, there's a few different options for fantasy sports, in particular fantasy football. You have your season-long leagues. You have DFS, which is daily fantasy sports. People may know what DraftKings and FanDuel are, so there's a way to compete on a weekly basis.
Right.
And then there are different kinds of pools that people may be in, like Survivor pools. You pick one NFL team to win a game each and every week. So you and I and countless numbers of people can be in the same pool, and we have to pick one NFL team that wins every week. If you get it wrong and you pick the Giants this week, but I pick the Seahawks win, Giants lose, you're out of the pool. I keep going.
That is intriguing, though. The fact that you were in two types of pools, if you would. The pool where you were in physical danger, right? But you had people surrounding you and you were pulled out immediately. And then the pool of people that you were surrounded on the block party, and the two differences that occurred. That is all I'm just drawing. I could be drawing at straws here, right? But just the weird pools and formats of life that occurred.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't have made that connection, but that's why you're doing. That's why you do the podcast. I just answered the
question. Mike, you blew it.
Exactly. I've heard that many times in my life.
Mike, if we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
I had to do some research on this one. I went back and looked at 1985 and the top 100 hits, and a song that stood out the most to me when I was reviewing that is "The Power of Love" by Huey Lewis and the News, because I loved Michael J. Fox. He was on the show Family Ties that I watched religiously, and I loved Back to the Future, and that was effectively the theme song of that movie. So I'd say "The Power of Love" for Huey Lewis would have been right up there.
Yeah. Well, it definitely connects. I love to connect it. Hey, "The Power of Love" definitely has you doing all you're doing, right? From the podcast to the corporate world to the family, right? "The Power of Love," pretty fascinating.
I would say so. It's come full circle on the meaning of that song, I suppose. It's late in life.
Yeah, I got a term too. Instead of full circle, now I say boomerang.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll help you popularize that if I can.
Yeah, there we go. Boomerang. So it's really fascinating. You threw it out there, but it always comes back to the core of who you are. And that is pretty intriguing. All right, Mike, well, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to go pretty quickly here. Mike, are you ready?
Yes.
Mike, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I wouldn't say the radio skills just yet, but my son is sort of interested in it at an early age. Yeah. He's only 4 years old. He'll be 5 in a few weeks. But he's interested in wearing the headset and talking into the microphone. So we'll see. As he grows, I think it's somebody I could absolutely pass them off to.
Yeah, let's do that. So here's what we'll do. My son is intrigued too. He is 7 going on 8. Let's get them on the mic and see what a conversation would look like, right? Hold me to that. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Are you married?
I am. I've been married for 6 years.
All right. So your son is the only child right now?
Nope.
Okay.
He's going to be 5 in a few weeks, and then my daughter is 2 years and about 3 months.
Wow. Do you believe in God?
I do. I'd say that relationship has gotten somewhat complicated as I've gotten older, but I do.
All right. Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes.
What about TV? Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
I would say yes, but not necessarily pure entertainment. I'm entertained by the sports that I watch, but mainly it's for research. I don't watch many TV shows anymore.
All right. And what about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
I would like to say less, but it's probably right on that number.
All right. Mike, after 1,001 conversations in 3 months in 2016, I needed to have butt surgery because I sat down so much. I'm joking. No. I came up with this workbook. The name of it is called Yours. It stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. And the idea is you answer these questions and hopefully the reflection helps you connect with your mission that I term Your Own Unique Real Statement. If you had to share with us, Mike, your own unique real statement that represents who you are, what would you say that is?
I don't know I'm going to have a motto necessarily, but I think it's really important to know that I think if my radio career has taught me anything is that when one door closes, another opportunity opens. And I know that's very cliche, but it was very true in my case. At a point where I could have been down, and I was at times, I just kept working at something that I was passionate about, and it brought me through and connected me with another corporate opportunity as well as a side opportunity, which isn't something I thought about much prior to that.
I love it. Mike, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
It's easy to say follow your passion, but in my case, it's absolutely true. And when one door closes, another one will open for you.
I love it. Mike Blewitt, folks. He blew it. Mike Blewitt, thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thanks, Angel. Have a great week.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.